Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Rudin, your AJ instructor here at Sierra College. And tonight we have a guest speaker from Placer County Sheriff's Office, Stephen Foster. Stephen is a public safety dispatcher, too, for Placer County, and he's been in that kind of a job for about 5 years. But about 4 of those years, he was in Southern California in San Diego County. And he moved up here about 14 months ago to Placer County. Stephen was on the tactical dispatch team for their SWAT team down there in San Diego, and he is a dispatch trainer for both agencies, or has been for both agencies. And so I'm going to see if I can get him in here to say hello and talk to him a little bit about the process that he went through to get hired on as a dispatcher. So, hey, Stephen.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
So I think I got your bio correct, that
Yep.
you were down in San Diego. Is that actually part of San Diego County?
San Diego County, yep. It was for an agency called El Cajon PD. They're about 15 miles. I won't give a time because it depends on traffic, but 15 miles east of downtown. So if you fly in and you head east on the 8, you'll run right into them.
All right. Yeah, El Cajon, I've heard of that. I lived down there for a little while. I went
Okay.
to a college. I think it was part of the Cuyamaca. Have you heard of that one?
Cuyamaca, yep.
Cuyamaca.
Yep.
I wasn't much of a student in those days.
Yeah,
I
no.
was there and gone, just visiting, you might say. But
Right.
anyway, yeah, the beautiful area down there. What made you come up to Placer County?
Yeah, so a few different things. Cost of living obviously has a big part of it. My fiance actually has family up here, and I didn't have any family left down there. They all moved and went new places. So, and then a comfortability standpoint, my parents were Cal Fire, so I actually had lived up here when I was very young, about 5 years old. Apparently, we lived in Auburn at one point, and a little bit in Roseville, so I kind of knew the area, but mainly for the cost of living and the long-term idea of life and having a family and being able to afford stuff.
So, what about your original decision to become a dispatcher? How did that come about?
Yeah, a large part of it had to do with wanting to be really a officer, and I was trying to find a way in. Um, and early on, it was applying at a lot of places and not really going a whole lot. Um, and I was working on my physical condition, but ultimately, when I started applying for a dispatcher, I had a few friends that had it either gotten into it at other agencies, and yeah, a few years in, finally got a call back for someone and with El Cajon, and I really loved it. I love doing it, and it's a challenging job. It keeps you on your toes. There's never a boring day. So
It requires that you can do multiple things at once, though, doesn't it?
absolutely, yeah. Multitasking is a huge part of this job. Right now I have a trainee and she's in the early stages of this, but you really have to learn how.
Oh, Stephen has frozen. Let's see if we can't get him back. But while we work on that connection, while the Sierra College technicians, work on that, we'll see if he comes back. Yeah, it seems to me, oh, here he comes. It seems to me that when people get into law enforcement, the hardest hurdle is getting initially hired. And then after you're initially hired, like Stephen, then making a lateral move is usually a little bit easier. There he is.
Hey, sorry about
Okay.
that.
Hey, not your
Um,
fault. I was just mentioning that, the difference between being a lateral and applying and moving when you've got already a job and then you're finding a new one versus the very first time that you get in. Did you find that there's a difference?
I mean, definitely. I have a post certificate, so that's a big part of it. Is you have to go through the state of California. They're going to send you to a class, and it's a 3-week course in reference to it. So that's a big part because having that and having that under your belt can definitely get you easily seen when you're trying to go to another agency or something like that. But if you get hired as a brand new dispatcher, you'll eventually go through that class, and it'll be a post class that you can have under your belt. So
Hmm.
for me, going from El Cajon up to Placer County, it actually wasn't too big of a difference. They still put me through the whole interview process and all that kind of stuff, and I actually did some new things with doing my first psych eval. I hadn't done that
Hmm.
in any other agency. So, and then obviously there's the polygraph versus the voice stress analyzer. Placer uses the voice stress. So that was new experience, but it obviously goes a little bit quicker, right? They can go, it's not nearly as long for a lateral to go get hired because they're going to go line up with your previous agency, your background packet and the things that you tell them versus the brand new. They obviously got to go dig deep and where you've lived and who you've lived with, where you've worked, what you've gotten in trouble for, all that kind of stuff.
A lot of people aren't aware of this, but public safety dispatchers in California are regulated by POST, the Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission in California, the same outfit that also certifies police officers. So, one thing I do recall in reviewing those background packets when I was the guy doing the hiring was that it's the same packet, the same, I don't know how many pages it is these days, but it's a lot. And they
It's a
do
lot.
ask everything. And I think I'm going to be preaching to the choir here, but would you agree that one of the most important things in a background process is bare honesty?
Absolutely. Absolutely. More than I think people really realize. If you aren't honest on a background packet, right, and they find that, right, they are going to that follows you, right? So, for example, if I applied at San Diego Sheriff and I lied about something, or I put on there something that was a big deal that I didn't think was a big deal, and it's actually a big red flag, and then I go apply for San Diego PD, and I put that never happened, or I say that I never applied for the sheriff because I didn't want that to be seen, and that is found.
Mm,
You're going to end up on some list somewhere where you're not going to get hired by any agency because honesty is such a big thing in this industry, in this career. If you can't be honest on your own background and the shortcomings you've had, how can you be trusted for, uh, you know, life and death situations or angry callers or people that maybe have some choice words towards you, but you still got a job to do. So
right.
being honest on your packet is 100% extremely important.
And it is considered a sensitive position, just like any other in public safety and law enforcement. As a dispatcher, you have incredible access to databases and
Mhm.
information about people at your fingertips, I would imagine.
Yes, we have access to, it depends on the region, but I can look up, right, someone's criminal history, what they've been arrested for, their tickets, what reports they've called in. There's obviously databases for us to search phone numbers, addresses, whose car is this registered to. So yeah, I mean, we can see a lot of personal information, and that again goes back to that honesty. Is there's a need to know versus right to know. I can't be going and searching what my neighbors been getting. So did I
Yes.
lose you again?
No, well, you're back now. Audio's
Frozen.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, again, it's back to honesty with that kind of stuff is because of the amount of databases that we have, you have to, uh, you can't be searching things that you're not supposed to. It's a need to know, right to know. If a deputy or an officer stops someone, then that's stuff that, and they need to know their criminal history or something like that, then that's why
Hmm.
we're there. But I can't be going searching what the professor's criminal history is or anything like that. So
Yeah, good. Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Which leads me to another question. You've already got yourself hired, you're in the system, but you're also a student at Sierra College, aren't you? And
absolutely,
so,
yes.
what are your goals with that? Why are you going to Sierra?
Yeah, so when I was down at El Cajon in San Diego County, a lot of those agencies, at least that I applied for, did not have, um, there wasn't a benefit, we'll call it, to if I finished my degree. So I didn't get paid more to be a dispatcher plus a degree kind of thing, which I regret now. Moving forward, here now, 5 years, 4.5, 5 years later, being up here, um, uh, Placer County Sheriff actually pays you extra money monthly if you have your advanced dispatcher certificate through post. So there is calculations, basically the amount of credits that I have, and the time I've done and the post classes that I've done that can equal something like that, and that's extra money. So it also doesn't help that we have benefits like the county giving me $1,400 a month, or not month, sorry, year uh,
Mm.
toward paying for school. So
Oh, wow.
it's really just continuing that education. Obviously it's also a good refresher, right? I told you earlier I took a similar class like this down there, but it's always good to get that information, and obviously more of a regional base of that information too. So for anyone that is trying to take classes and get into this field, I really recommend finishing it through, not only for yourself, but you could work for one agency, and obviously life happens. You move, get closer to family, cheaper cost of living, whatever it is, and that doesn't mean that the next agency doesn't actually pay you. They're going to pay you more, essentially, and
Hmm.
also that's just more in your toolbox for getting hired. That you have that degree in administration of justice and have taken the time to go through those classes. So.
And in case people didn't know, like a police officer, post has different levels of certification, starting probably with a basic
Mhm.
and advanced and supervisory and so on, all the way up the
Yep.
steps. And Placer County happens to pay you an incentive on top of your base pay if you've got the higher and higher levels of post certification. And that's one of the things I think you told me you spotted
Mhm.
and found that to be attractive. There's some other incentives that Placer offers as well, isn't there?
Yeah, we have, night shift differential is a huge thing for here. I can't speak for the other agencies. I don't remember all theirs, but we get 7.5% for working at least 5 hours after midnight. Or I'm sorry, 5 p.m.
Hmm.
So if my normal night shift of a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., I get an extra 7.5%, which obviously is a pretty big chunk toward. Um, my overall paycheck. And obviously, you get time off, and we have a very generous system for uh, compensatory time off. So you have an option of when you work overtime to either take it as cash or put it into your comp bank. And if you have enough hours in a comp bank and there's someone to cover you, you can take a normal day off without using vacation. So which was very
Yeah.
new to me from my last agency. We didn't have that available. So
And now you
um,
can head out to the lake because the reservoirs are full.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. It's been nice and hot. So
Yeah, right. Good. And you like it up there at Placer County then?
absolutely, yeah. It's a very family-oriented uh, sheriff's office. I coming from a busy city in San Diego, which generally I would say was still law enforcement friendly, but just being up here, I mean, everyone loves the sheriff's office. Obviously, if you drive eastbound on 80, there's literally a giant sign that says "We love you, law enforcement" or something like that. You won't catch that in San Diego, to be honest. But no,
All right. Well, hey, we're going to have to do some post editing to to do something about. It looks like Steven's locked up again. Uh-oh. Well, hey, we'll just press on. Here we go. Here we go. Steven is back. Let's get him back here. And this is not Steven's fault. It just so happens that the system is glitching.
It doesn't like me.
I guess not.
Yeah, so I don't know where I cut off, but right, there's a big old sign driving eastbound 80 that says we love law enforcement, and everyone loves the sheriff's office up here. What I loved about working there, and especially having to do with your class, is it is so right on point for what that agency really represents of community policing. I had never heard of a resident deputy. Like, I didn't even know that was a real thing before I moved here, and it's a real thing, right? You have the same. Your neighbors are these deputies that work in your community, that can listen to these direct issues and live in those communities to know really what's going on. And they don't hide that they're law enforcement. Where my prior agency, if you wanted a take-home car, you had to have a garage. It was locked away. No one saw it. That kind of thing. Here, you drive around, those cars that are take-home cars, they're not in anyone's garages. They're not hidden in the backyard. They're out front parked at those houses. They're your neighbors, and I think it's really cool because, again, like, they are part of the community and they work in those communities. So someone that lives in Colfax that works at the sheriff's office is also patrolling Colfax. Same with Forest Hill and stuff like that. So it really ties that community part of hearing from your neighbors and these business owners, the same places that you go shopping on your days off, of really understanding the issues that they might be facing and trying to help it when you're obviously on duty.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple of questions that I brought with me from students. And so I'll just ask you these questions. These came from a couple of students who were interested. Jill S. asks, I used marijuana as a teenager. Can I still get hired as a dispatcher?
Obviously, I don't work in backgrounds directly, but I don't think it would hurt to apply. Number one, obviously, is it's basically legal here now. I can also speak for myself. I didn't ever smoke marijuana or do any drugs, but I did get in some kind of criminal trouble when I was 18, and it hasn't deterred me. It's just something you need to be honest about. If you're not honest about it and they uncover that, that's going to be your bigger problem. But there's other coworkers that I would say have crossed that bridge too, of, when they were younger, right? Everyone's a kid and makes those decisions. But don't let it deter you. Obviously, if it was last week, might want to double check on, how you're living your life and what you want, and if you really want a job in law enforcement. But if it was, years ago when you were younger, that kind of thing, I think it's safe to say you can still apply.
And I think you and I were talking, and you remembered something one of our other guest speakers mentioned, which was we hire human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes all their faults, mistakes, histories, and everything else. And so it is understood that these things will be out there. And in my opinion, just from actually reviewing backgrounds and going through making hiring decisions, time and distance from the incident. If you make a mistake, or you're in a period of your young life, usually that's explainable or understandable to teenagers. But showing a more recent pattern of behavior is a problem. If that extends into your 20s, it's when you make a mistake, if you learn from it and you move on and you've conducted yourself accordingly since then, it's not going to be a problem. And it takes a couple of rare felonies, that where you just stand no chance. That's the reality check.
Yeah.
But most things can be understood and forgiven, especially if there's been a little bit of time.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's an important thing. So don't discount yourself. And I want to give a little plug to a class called AJ 151 Pathways. In fact, Angela Ford, my friend Angela Ford, runs that. I think she is the instructor for Pathways. And in that class, I call that a reality check. Some people might call it scared straight. right? Because they'll tell you in that semester all about those types of realities. And if you really do have a jaded past, they'll let you know. If they think there's something in there that would be a deal breaker, they'll let you know that. And maybe you're spinning your wheels and you shouldn't waste your time trying to become, let's say, a sworn officer or something. But most of the time, in my experience, people think they have something that is a deal breaker in their background when in fact it isn't. And so that's a good place to find those things out, where in AJ 151 Pathways, you will go through mock interviews in front of an interview panel, and they bring in people from actual agencies around here to sit on the interview panel. So you'll be interviewing with the real people who do them, and they'll have you do a background packet, so you get to experience that, and even a resume. So all that kind of stuff happens in AJ 151, and I really believe that if you practice doing an interview, if you can put that together like they do in 151, or if you know somebody, you'll be twice as good next time. And it's a matter of just polishing that up. And so to experience it will shed a lot of light on the process that you had to go through, the process I had to go through, and anybody who wants to get into any area of the justice system. And so that's a good one. Another question was from Sam G. Is there a physical agility test for getting hired as a dispatcher?
If there was, I probably wouldn't be hired. No, there is not. There is a test though that's unique to dispatch. Not every agency uses it. Every agency I've applied for thus far does. It's called Critical, and it's a computer test. But it's really the closest thing we can do to test someone on their ability to multitask. So, for example, you are going to get a mock phone call where you're taking information, and obviously the person's not going to give it to you in the exact order that it's, in front of you, all while there's something for you to read and then choose the proper resource. So again, it could be Mary calling in a car parked in front of her driveway, then she can't leave for work, all while a screen pops up and says, "Hey, there is a tree on fire. Are you going to send fire, medical, or law enforcement?" And you have to click on the proper button. It's a super long few-hour test. But no, to answer your question, no agility test. You don't have to jump any walls. You don't have to sprint 100 yards or anything like that to get into dispatching.
All right. And that one is called, what was that test called?
Critical.
Critical. Is
Yeah,
that
so
something somebody can practice?
CRITICALL. I don't know. I felt like I got a lot of experience with it just from applying the first few places I went to, because that's generally what I passed, and then fizzled out or whatever it is. I think you might be able to Google it, but really it comes down to again, your listening, your typing speed, and if you want to practice your northeast southwest and looking at maps. But that's just a big part of it, is you're gonna write things in, and it's also going to check, what is it, dyslexia, where they give you a license plate and they verbalize it to you, but now you got to write it out or click the right one, kind of thing. Make sure it's not all backwards. So yeah, you might be able to Google stuff like that. I'll be honest, I haven't. Like I said, I got my practice rounds in early on in my applying career.
Right. They want to make sure you can prioritize calls and figure out what to do and that kind of thing. But you
Exactly.
wouldn't, if you were entry level, you wouldn't require any specific knowledge. They're just looking at how you handle things that are more common,
Yeah,
things that are
yeah,
understandable to somebody who isn't already a dispatcher. I assume that is usually,
exactly.
they're not going to challenge you on things aren't expected to know yet.
Yeah, I think one thing that might get people for that kind of test, or even in interview questions, because when you think of law enforcement, right, you think cops and robbers, bad guys, steal, and all that kind of stuff. Really easy way to apply something that might be on there, or even a question or answer interview, is life over property, right? If there is someone that has cut themselves intentionally because they're having a really bad day, versus someone that stole a candy bar, you got to prioritize what is important, and that life, conserving life and getting someone help over something that's stolen, is the most important thing. So that might be something you see on that test, and that was something you're definitely you can be asked for in an interview. Is I was given, I don't remember the exact example, but I was given A, B, and C. Put them in order of what is the most important to you, kind of thing. So life over property is always the best way to go.
Excellent. Any final thoughts or words of advice for folks who are looking to get into this field? Uh-oh, Stephen. We'll see if you unfreeze here in a second. All right. Well, we'll see if he comes back in a second. We'll give him another second so he can wrap it up and give us his final thoughts. Here he comes back. There he comes. There he is. Sorry about that, buddy.
Good. Sorry, what was your question?
Any final thoughts or words of advice for people who are trying to get into the field of being a public safety dispatcher?
Yeah, it's a really fun job. It's a very challenging job. It's a rewarding job. You are going to be helping people. You're going to be helping people on their worst days. There's plenty of people that have never called 911, and the first time, it might come to you, and it might be a really traumatic incident and stuff like that. So, mentally preparing yourself for the process, and even what this job can be, is a really big thing. You have to take care of yourself mentally. You have to take care of yourself even physically. We're sometimes strapped to a chair for 12, 16 hours a day just because of, incidents that are going on. But don't let that deter, how long the process is and anything like that. Don't let that deter you from getting in. I applied at, I want to say, 4 or 5 agencies, including one of them that turned me down 10 months into the process. Don't let that deter you. If you are a good human being and you obviously have shown your dedication and maybe obviously put in the time for classes and can pass the tests and stuff like that, you'll eventually get there. Just hang tight, and you're only going to gain experience if you go through an interview process and don't make it. You can obviously apply that to the next time. So it's a great career. I recommend it to anyone that doesn't want to be in a patrol car, having to deal with guns or anything like that. But it's awesome being able to help the deputies day in and day out, and obviously help the public too for, again, some of their worst situations that you could imagine at this point. So.
And usually you are the first person they speak to when they call. When they need help, it's you and then everyone else down the line.
Yeah, yeah, we are the jokingly first responder. We got to decipher the information and make it make a little bit of sense before we send it to a deputy or anything like that. And sometimes that's not even possible. But yeah, you're gonna talk to a lot of people with a lot of unique situations. And again, it's going to be a lot of people's worst day for them. It might be a routine call for you, but it can easily be someone's worst day, and you're just trying to help them through that. So,
yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for dropping by and sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely, thank you. Sorry,
Well, I appreciate
apparently
it.
my internet doesn't like this, but
Well, we got it
thanks.
done, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you
All
again
right.
for having me, and I had a lot of fun in your class. It's been a good one.
Oh, hey. Oh, appreciate that. Well, I've got some other classes, so maybe I'll see you down the road a
All
spell.
right.
Otherwise, I'll see you around the county somewhere.
Yeah,
If I
yeah,
ever call 911, maybe you'll answer.
yeah. Hopefully
All
not.
right, Stephen. Thanks again for your help.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
So.
All right. Well, that was Stephen Foster talking about his own process of getting into his career field of being a public safety dispatcher right here in Placer County. He's also a Sierra College student. So we appreciate hearing from him, and thank you for checking it out. And if you're one of my students, then I'll see you in the discussion boards. Other than that, be safe, and we'll see you later.